Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. The House convened for long hours today over the infrastructure bill and Biden's social spending package. Moderate and progressive Democrats are still at odds over how to move forward. President Biden says the U.S. has ordered millions of doses of Pfizer's experimental antiviral pill for COVID-19. Pfizer says the pills cut death risk by nearly 90%. A coalition of 11 states and 5 private employers are suing President Biden over his latest vaccine mandate. The mandate requires all employers with over 100 workers to require the vaccine or weekly virus testing. The Republican gubernatorial candidate in New Jersey is not conceding the race yet. He says Governor Murphy's victory speech was premature and that there are still many more votes to be counted. Marathon weekend is kicking off in New York City. NTD takes you to the opening run and speaks to a former winner. The House is still in session trying to pass the infrastructure bill and social spending bill. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been working all day to rally the party together to make sure there are enough yes votes to pass the infrastructure bill. NTD's Melina Wisecup joins us with the latest on the vote. Melina, does it look like a successful vote will happen tonight?
Steph, it's really hard to tell at this point. The House has been working on this, as you said, all day. They convened at 8 a.m. this morning. Pelosi is really trying to rally the votes within the Democratic Party to make sure they can move forward on President Biden's agenda. Now, this includes both the Build Back Better bill, that is the social welfare and climate spending bill, as well as the smaller hard infrastructure bill. And Pelosi originally intended to pass that social spending package, but she faced pushback from moderate Democrats who said they wanted to wait and see the Congressional Budget Office report so that they could tell the overall cost of the spending package, how it would impact the national debt. So then Pelosi, losing those votes, realized that it might tank without those votes. So she switched tactics and she tried to hold a vote on this smaller hard infrastructure bill. Now this would fund the bridges, the roads, the broadband, electric vehicles and such. Now, this one could go straight to Biden's desk if the House does pass it tonight, but it's unclear if it will. The progressives are really opposed to holding that infrastructure vote first. They want to pass the social welfare and climate spending package, have it pass the House, have it pass the Senate, and off to Biden's desk before they even consider that smaller hard infrastructure bill. Now, if Pelosi loses even 3 votes in her party, that infrastructure bill will not pass tonight. It's a very thin margin here in the House. And if it does fail tonight, it's unclear when the House can take it up again, Steph, because the House is leaving D.C. next week. Steph?
Thanks, Melina. And we'll keep you updated on the status of those spending bills. And attorneys general from 11 states are suing the Biden administration over its vaccine mandate for private sector workers. These are the first states to sue after OSHA announced details of the mandate yesterday. NTD's Allison Lee has more.
The 11 attorneys general filed the lawsuit in federal appeals court on Friday, led by Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt. Attorneys general from Arizona, Montana, Nebraska, Arkansas, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Alaska, New Hampshire, and Wyoming also joined the lawsuit.
Is this the kind of government you want that is predicting the future to regulate your life and your whereabouts, what you have to put on your face, where you can go, what you put in your body? And people have had enough of this stuff, and I'm going to fight back.
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, announced Thursday that, effective Friday, employers with over 100 workers must require their workers to get the COVID-19 vaccine or get tested weekly. This will impact around 84 million workers nationwide. President Biden said in a statement, "While I would have much preferred that requirements not become necessary, too many people remain unvaccinated for us to get out of this pandemic for good." The Missouri Attorney General disagrees.
Someone says that using fear is good. That is what every tyrant in the history of the world and every dictator in the history of the world has ever said, to accumulate, aggregate, and maintain power. This is America, the freest country in the history of the world. And I don't think that we should be allowing individual politicians who want to grab power and never let go of it, gain it in the first place.
The states argue in the lawsuit the mandate is unconstitutional, unlawful, and unwise, and that for over a century, the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized that policies on compulsory vaccination lie within the police powers of the states, and that they are matters that do not ordinarily concern the national government. The Missouri Attorney General says the lawsuit is designed to protect personal freedoms, preserve Missouri businesses, and push back on bureaucratic tyrants who simply want power and control. 5 private businesses also join the states in the lawsuit. Allison Lee, NTD News.
The U.S. might soon have a new treatment against COVID-19. Vaccines are already being used as prevention, but now President Biden is eyeing the new pill to potentially help those who become infected.
The United States has secured millions of doses of Pfizer's experimental antiviral pill for COVID-19. That's in case it turns out to be an effective treatment.
A pill developed by Pfizer that may dramatically reduce the risk of being hospitalized or dying when taken shortly after infection, if you're infected. If authorized by the FDA, we may soon have pills that may treat the virus of those who become infected.
In a study, the drug was shown to cut the chances of hospitalization or death by almost 90% for adults at risk of developing severe disease. Pfizer's trial was stopped early after this number came out. The drug was tested in adults within 3 to 5 days of symptoms starting. Fewer than 1% of patients who received it went to the hospital within 4 weeks. That's compared to 7% who got placebos. 7 people who were treated with placebos died. President Biden reiterated that he thinks prevention is still better than treatment.
But look, it's important to remember, we need to prevent infections, not wait to treat them once they happen. And vaccination remains the best way to do that.
This is the second COVID-19 pill to be developed. The first one is from Merck, which is shown to cut the risk of hospitalization and death by about half. Both Merck and Pfizer are seeking FDA authorization for their pills for emergency use application. Merck has already submitted that filing, while Pfizer is expected to do so before Thanksgiving.
Statesman and General Colin Powell was laid to rest in Washington, D.C. today. The funeral service of the decorated war veteran and former Secretary of State achieved something rare. That is, it brought together a bipartisan group of high-ranking officials despite Washington's polarized climate. NTD's Kevin Hogan takes us there.
Colin Powell, a 4-star general, Secretary of State, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and a National Security Advisor, memorialized at the National Cathedral. The dean gives a eulogy.
He lived a life of service, and he was a great blessing to all who knew him.
Powell's funeral united Washington, with officials from past and present administrations on both sides of the aisle paying tribute. But more than a giant in the military and diplomatic realms, he was a father. His son, the former FCC chair, called on America to honor Powell's legacy and to be a nation that still produces individuals like him.
I took his hand, just as he had taken mine decades before. I wanted him to be at peace. But again, I felt my father's love in that hand. Colin Powell was a great lion with a big heart. We will miss him terribly.
His private funeral at the National Cathedral is a rare occurrence, and in attendance, 3 presidents and their wives, the Bushes, the Obamas, and the Bidens, past secretaries of state, a VP, and 2 former defense secretaries. And beyond Powell's commanding resume, his ambitious and determined personality, there was his love for the pop group ABBA.
Colin immediately went down on one knee and sang the entire Mamma Mia to a very amused foreign minister from Sweden.
The deputy said Powell once told him, "We always need to treat people with a little more respect than they deserve because we don't know what's going on with their lives." Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
Today is day 1 of the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial in Georgia. The victim, Arbery, was shot when he was jogging in a neighborhood last February. 3 men living in the neighborhood have been charged with malice and felony murder. Here are the details.
Prosecutors and defense attorneys in the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial made their opening statements at the Glynn County Courthouse in Brunswick, Georgia on Friday. 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery was shot on February 23rd last year. One of the defendants, William Roddy Bryan Jr., filmed this footage of the incident. The three defendants, William Bryan, Gregory McMichael, and Travis McMichael, say they were suspecting Arbery of burglary. Their defense attorney says the McMichaels were certain that Arbery was the man that had previously broken into homes in the neighborhood. They were trying to do a citizen's arrest when they chased down Arbery with their neighbor Bryan. They say a fight later broke out between them.
Travis is trying to get the gun away, and Travis fires 2 more times, and you've seen that. It's a horrible, horrible video. And it's tragic. It's tragic that Ahmaud Arbery lost his life. But at that point, Travis McMichael is acting in self-defense.
All three defendants have pleaded not guilty. Their attorney says the issue is not whether there was probable cause to conduct a citizen's arrest. The issue is whether Travis McMichael used excessive force in the arrest. The prosecutor, on the other hand, argues that Arbery was the one defending himself, not the three neighbors.
Mr. Arbery is under attack by all 3 of these men. He's under attack. Because that doesn't stop Mr. Bryan that he went into the ditch. Mr. Bryan tries to hit Mr. Arbery 1, 2, 3, 4 different times with his pickup truck. How do you know this was an attack on Mr. Arbery? Because Greg McMichael said it perfectly. Mr. Arbery was trapped like a rat. That's what he told the police.
On top of the state charges, the three defendants also face federal charges. The Justice Department has filed hate crime charges against the men, accusing them of targeting Arbery because of his race. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
Today's jobs report from the Department of Labor shows over 500,000 jobs were added last month. This is the largest increase since July, but overall employment is still well below pre-pandemic levels. NTD's Jason Perry has those details.
The latest figures from the Labor Department show that over 530,000 jobs were added in October, and unemployment is down to 4.6%. Companies in almost every industry added workers, but the U.S. still has about 4 million fewer jobs than before the pandemic. The demand for employees is outpacing growth in the workforce, and job postings are at record highs.
We're seeing about a third of the applies that we saw same period last year. So that's a really concerning metric when you get down to it, because it just means that folks are not engaging in the same job searching behavior they once were, and we're not sure that they ever will.
Sarah Gordon says the pandemic has changed the employer-employee relationship. People are no longer looking for a job they can fit their life around, but a job that fits into their life. She offered advice to employers.
So coaching and counseling our customers, quite frankly, about flexible schedules, not having the same stringent attendance policies that they've had in the past, because life happens. And we need to make room for folks that still have lingering childcare responsibilities or other family responsibilities to be able to re-engage at the hours that they're able to work.
Employers are also raising pay, and some are offering bonuses to people who accept jobs or recruit their friends to work. Jason Perry, NTD News.
With prices going up in grocery stores, some shoppers are heading to food banks and local farmers markets for better deals. NTD's Phil Zoe has more from Union Square in New York.
Prices may have gone up at some supermarkets, but what about your local farmers market? Today we're at the famous Green Market at Union Square, New York City.
Everything's gone up. It's unbelievable. To stay afloat, you know, is just, it's like, it's not easy. No, everything is getting inflated, of course.
I haven't noticed a ton, but I also shop several times a week, so it can be hard to add it up.
NTD News spoke to Ken Alamo from Roaming Acres Farm in New Jersey. Because of higher processing costs, he had to raise the price of bacon from $8 for half a pound to $9. But customers are still loving it.
This thing is done right outside the city. You're getting something that's raised 40 minutes outside the city. It can't be any fresher than that.
His farm is also turning waste products into another business.
One of the things we do with our animals in order to minimize waste is all the leftover parts that we turn them into dog treats.
Karina Reichman is cooking for a party of 3 tonight.
Eggplant. I never bought eggplant in my life, but if I was going to, I'd hope I could afford it.
She's looking for a deal at the market, but it's getting harder.
When you're buying organic and you're buying all these things, it gets pricey. It totally just does. But I'd rather do that than eat a bunch of hormones, you know?
David, who just moved to New York from Boston, is staying positive.
I mean, I think it's pretty expected with everything that's been going on, so it's not really too surprising. I'm sure that it'll sort itself out over time, though.
One farmer told NTD News their gala apples have gone up to $2 per pound.
Farmers market or supermarket looks like prices are going up regardless. Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
Authorities have arrested and charged a Russian man who allegedly lied to the FBI about then presidential candidate Donald Trump. The Russian was a key source for that infamous Steele dossier, which the FBI used to investigate Trump in 2016. NTD's Miguel Moreno interviews an author to learn more.
A grand jury hit Igor Danchenko, a Russian, with 5 counts of false statements, all of which he allegedly made to the FBI. He's the latest person to be indicted in Special Counsel John Durham's investigation of the FBI's investigation of Donald Trump. The indictment alleges that Danchenko was the primary source for Christopher Steele's dossier. This is what the FBI used to investigate the alleged ties between then presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russia. The FBI interviewed Danchenko multiple times to verify his allegations that were included in the dossier, but the Russian allegedly lied to agents during these interviews. Author and journalist Lee Smith tells NTD Durham may try to get answers from Danchenko.
Danchenko might be looking at 25 years. I think the idea is that the FBI, or rather John Durham, would like to get Igor Danchenko to cooperate rather than face up to 25 years in prison, say who else was involved, how this went down, who told him to do what his role was, what Christopher Steele's role was, what Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS's role was, and what the FBI's was, what the Crossfire Hurricane team was up to.
Smith also says this has more to do with Hillary Clinton's campaign than with the Russian.
I mean, we've known this since October 2017, when Congressman Devin Nunes's investigation forced out the information that the Clinton campaign had paid for the dossier. We've known this for years. So the more information that we're getting from the Durham investigation, it points again and again to the Clintons. Michael Sussman was a Clinton lawyer. Igor Danchenko was a Clinton campaign contractor. The person that he was talking to and was getting information from was a Clinton ally who works at a DC-based, a Virginia-based public relations firm.
Former FBI counterintelligence officer Peter Strzok led the investigation into Trump. Strzok says everyone Durham indicted was almost peripheral to the core of the investigation of Trump. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
After a close race for the next governor of New Jersey, the Associated Press called the race for Democratic incumbent Governor Phil Murphy. But last night, Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli said Governor Murphy's victory speech was premature and that there are still tens of thousands of votes left to be counted. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
In a race that was projected to be an easy win for New Jersey's Democratic governor, the narrow vote margin has surprised many and is much closer than expected. The Associated Press declared Democratic incumbent Governor Phil Murphy the winner on Wednesday.
I am humbled to be the first Democratic governor re-elected in the great state of New Jersey since my dear friend, the late Governor Brendan Byrne, did this in 1977. Thank you, New Jersey!
But as of Thursday night, the Republican candidate for governor still has not conceded.
No one should be declaring victory or conceding the election until every legal vote is counted. Here is where we stand. First, we're going to allow the 21 counties to continue with the process of counting every legal vote by mail and provisional ballot. That could take another week or two, and we've got compliance people watching over that.
And Project Veritas has struck again in New Jersey, this time releasing a video of a non-citizen attempting to vote at a New Jersey polling place.
I'll let you fill out a ballot now. Whether or not it's going to be, they're going to count it, I don't know.
But I don't know if it works because I'm an
but
I'm an Irish citizen. I'm not.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you have some citizenship here?
With the work visa, yeah.
Listen, we'll let you do it. They'll figure that out.
Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli says his team won't make a decision on requesting a recount or audit until after the counting process is complete, and that could take 2 more weeks. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Coming up, in light of the shipping congestion at California's ports, one port is asking for assistance in the supply chain crisis. And Marathon Weekend is kicking off in New York City. We'll hear from a former winner and from runners who don't mind whether they win or not. That and more on NTD News. Amid a backlog of cargo ships in Southern California, the chief of the Oakland port in Northern California is calling for help. He says they need solutions from all levels of government. We hear more from NTD's David Lamb.
The Port of Oakland, a major West Coast port, is calling for government assistance amid backlog. An executive commented on the reason during a Wednesday meeting.
The current congestion that we see is partly a result of decades of underinvestment in our ports and goods movement supply chain.
Juan says they tried extending port hours and creating policies to incentivize quicker turn times, but that these are short-term solutions. He believes they need additional investments in infrastructure, as well as coordination among local partners and state partners.
Among California ports, although California ports did receive access to the Federal American Rescue Funds in the state budget cycle, the guidelines were limited to a small group of ports for direct pandemic relief and did not focus on any capacity building infrastructure projects which might address freight congestion.
A California state assemblyman stated that farmers are seeing a 20% reduction in exports due to the current shipping crisis.
An estimated $64 billion in cargo is idling on the coast, waiting to unload. With the holidays right around the corner, Christmas and the months beyond may be different for Americans across the country.
According to Juan, California ports have handled record cargo volumes in the past 2 years. California port activities generate an estimated $9 billion in tax revenue each year. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
On Thursday, California voted to store more natural gas in Los Angeles. This decision comes after drought and wildfires left the state to find other forms of power generation.
California said it would increase the amount of natural gas stored at a Los Angeles area facility. In a 4-0 vote, the California Public Utilities Commission approved the plan to boost the capacity of Aliso Canyon underground storage facility from 34 billion cubic feet of gas to 41 billion cubic feet. In a statement, the commission stated the decision ensures energy reliability for the Los Angeles basin this winter in a safe and reliable manner. This is meant to be a temporary transition. They intend to continue reducing or eliminating Aliso Canyon to move towards cleaner energy.
The most important steps really that we've taken in developing what are the specific procurements needed to transition off of Aliso. There were specific quantifications on the amount of daily and hourly gas that needed to be replaced with specific alternatives.
After years of restricting fossil fuel infrastructure, California has been looking to natural gas to generate power after drought and wildfires left it with few alternative options to keep the lights on. In 2015, a blowout at the facility caused the nation's largest methane leak that forced thousands to evacuate from their homes. California has set a goal to produce all of its electricity from clean sources by 2045, but has faced challenges to their electrical grids in recent months. The decision to increase the amount of gas held at Aliso Canyon was necessary to maintain reliability, the Utilities Commission said. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
The 50th New York City Marathon is set to take place this Sunday. Events and festivities are already going on. NTD's Arian Pazdar has more from Central Park.
This weekend is going to be filled with all kinds of different events and runs, all surrounding the New York City Marathon. This right here is the very first of those runs. It's called Run with Champions, and with kids, of course. Now, one of the most beautiful things about the New York City Marathon is how many different people are running in it. We spoke with some of those runners, and we also spoke with the winner of the 2009 marathon. The record-holding marathoner says running can help you become a better person.
So help them set goals, commitment, perseverance, because you go through ups and downs in life, and you get injured in sports. And how do you overcome that? It helps you be a better person.
I spoke with a number of non-professional runners as well. They don't really mind in what position they will finish in the upcoming race on Sunday.
We are running it. We are old people running our first marathon ever.
Yeah.
Even if one of us falls, we're going to drag the other one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we're sticking together. To win. Right.
I like running, and it keeps me motivated to do other things like work, etc., etc.
And we're here because our son is running the marathon on Sunday.
He would very much like to break 3 hours. He was very close last year, and I know that's his goal, so hopefully his training will pay off.
I already ran it also in 2018, and it was just the most wonderful experience. Just the whole city just lights up, and everyone's cheering for everyone and calls them by their name and cheers for them, and really beautiful collective experience.
Great city, and I'm glad that everything is back. I'm excited.
The main event is, of course, the big marathon on Sunday. The weather is expected to be good, and New York City is ready. Ariane Pastar, NTD News, New York.
And Starbucks is getting more and more orders of complex drinks trending on TikTok. The company even released an internal training video on how to handle the situation if a customer flashes an image of a viral drink. NTD's Evelyn Lee has the details.
Social media influencers are dreaming up all kinds of fancy Starbucks drinks that are not only tasty but also Instagrammable. While the drinks appeal to Starbucks customers,
I've heard about some that are like cinnamon dolce that are not on the menu, and I tried it and it was good.
Oh yeah, so it had a really pretty gradient. I didn't understand that drink. I'd never seen a pink drink with a white top.
Not everyone tries them.
One, I didn't want to inconvenience them, and also I'm kind of lazy.
I've seen them and I've been intrigued, and I have saved a few of them, but honestly, the reason I don't is because I feel awkward, pulling up 10 steps on how to make a drink.
While they look pretty, there are complaints that they're hard to order, complex to make, and slow down service. Especially TikTok users are reportedly treating the Starbucks menu like a buffet of ingredients that can be mixed together to make new drinks. But are you really allowed to mix your drink whichever way you like?
Can I get a venti cold brew with caramel syrup and vanilla sweet cream foam? And there's also apple brown sugar in the foam, if you can mix it in. And then cinnamon dolce topping.
Starbucks says in addition to what's on the menu, there are more than 170,000 ways to customize the beverage. While the barista stayed very patient with me navigating through ingredients that weren't available, they're working under pressure. According to company policy, baristas have to make customers drink in a set period of time. Starbucks now says that it's going to increase staffing to handle the influx of all these labor-intensive drinks.
I actually got 2 special orders, and one of them is this pink drink, and the barista was actually pretty polite. Evelyn Lee, NTD News, New York.
Coming up, is China training its kids to be military martyrs? An online video shows military-themed activities with Chinese kids dressed as Red Army soldiers and carrying bags with the word Dynamite. And no financial aid, no chance to work, and no freedom. That's what lockdown has looked like for people in southwest China for 7 months. And protests don't seem to help. More soon here on NTD News.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? Or spending late nights and covering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Chinese Communist regime seems to be flexing its military muscle again. An online video shows trucks loaded with weapons entering a coastal Chinese city that's just across the Taiwan Strait. And another video shows kids taking part in military-themed activities. They're dressing up in Red Army uniforms and pretending to carry bags of explosives. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has the details.
As tensions between China and Taiwan are rising, footage of what are alleged to be weapon-carrying trucks entering the Chinese city of Fuzhou have flooded the Chinese internet. Netizens are again speculating about a potential invasion of Taiwan, as the city is the capital of a Chinese province right across the Taiwan Strait. Similar videos of military trucks appearing in other Chinese cities have been making the rounds on the internet as well. However, some China observers say that the Chinese regime isn't serious about invading Taiwan immediately, but is instead pumping up a sense of impending war with Taiwan and putting on a show for the Chinese people to watch. Political commentator Bi Xian told Radio Free Asia that if there was going to be a war, basically it would be under martial law. While the CCP now is trying to give public morale a boost and show we haven't given up on annexing Taiwan. Whether these trucks are targeting Taiwan or not, their journeys haven't seen smooth sailing. Online video shows that one of the trucks collided with another truck carrying pigs. The accident caused quite a scene on the highway. It seems a battle may be brewing when even the very young are taught with new tactics in China. Footage of Chinese children participating in some military-themed activities is making the rounds on Chinese-language social media. The kids were dressed in Red Army uniforms and carried rucksacks, with the Chinese words for Dynamite bag emblazoned on top. Accompanied by their parents, the kids were supposed to break through the enemy blockade. The Dynamite bags may be a reference to communist soldier Dong Chunrui. He's a household name in China and one of the CCP's favorite mentions in its propaganda. Carrying a dynamite bag, Dong allegedly blew himself up during the Chinese Civil War. His aim was to destroy a blockade set up by the opposing nationalist army. Dong's story is included in Chinese textbooks to educate Chinese children how they should sacrifice themselves for the Communist Party. Some netizens gasp at the message the activity is trying to deliver to the kids. One wrote, while Japan, Europe, and the United States often conduct escape drills to educate children on how to escape from danger, some countries are the opposite. They make their kids carry dynamite bags and act as a human shield. Another wrote, how stupid do parents have to be to let their children carry an explosive bag look-alike? Another user posted an image of the exercise with the text, how to raise child terrorists.
People from a small southwest Chinese city have been locked down for 7 months in the name of CCP virus control. Small-scale protests broke out, but nothing seems to have changed. People there hope their desperate voices can be heard.
After months of lockdown, villagers from southwest China are on the brink of collapse. Ruili is a small Chinese city bordering Burma or Myanmar. Residents there have been stuck under a strict lockdown for the past 7 months. Hundreds of thousands of people fled the city, and those who remain are getting desperate. A group of them gathered to protest the lockdown on Tuesday and Wednesday. The situation in Ruili was largely hidden from the public eye until its former vice mayor posted a request for help on social media days ago. A local resident says the current mayor's reaction to the post has made the situation even worse. To protect residents' identities, we distorted their voices and gave them pseudonyms.
I feel that the lockdown only got worse. They tightened control on the exit points. It was to such an extent that workers there fought with residents on the first day after the social media post.
Chen explained that if residents want to leave their village, they must first apply, then wait for written approval, and then get a city official to sign it. What's more, the financial aid given to residents over the 7-month lockdown totals to an equivalent of about $155. And not everyone got the money.
From July until now, we only got 1,000 yuan, a 10-kilogram bag of rice, and some oil. That's all. Now we don't get a dime, not a cent of income. We can only count on our savings and buy vegetables from other residents to survive. We can only survive.
Chen says the Chinese state-run media reports covering the situation in the city are false.
Just yesterday, we read in the media about how nice Ruili is, how abundant supplies are, about how people exercise in parks. Actually, all parks are closed now. I don't know how they could do it like in the reports.
Residents with mortgages and car loans are also concerned over their social credit ratings.
We don't have income and can't leave. Authorities won't ask banks to postpone our mortgages and loan payments. Many people will be deemed untrustworthy in social credit system as a result.
China's social credit system determines whether or not a citizen can enjoy certain privileges by measuring their trustworthiness. Missing loan or mortgage payments may cause a person's score to drop. Li says she's also worried about the future of Ruili.
Now, even if the lockdown ends, the overall economy of the city has already plummeted and population has decreased tremendously. There are definitely far less tenants than before. They won't come back. They've been through so much and are scared.
Another resident reports that not everyone actually received the city's financial aid.
A family of 3 killed themselves with gas last night. There's no report on details. The firefighters and police came last night, but there's no official report on it.
Liu described being made to take over 100 virus tests in recent months. He says some places require residents to get tested daily and explained that out of over 100 shops and storefronts in the local market, only 3 or 5 are still open. Most have left the city. He adds that he doesn't know if they'll return.
Coming up, as the UK tries to phase out gas-powered cars, rare earth magnets, a key component in electric cars, are in demand more than ever. Britain now wants to revive domestic production of the magnets to rely less on China, which currently provides about 90% of the supply. And Lithuania is building a wall to keep out migrants from Belarus. Meanwhile, Poland says Belarusian soldiers threatened to open fire on Polish border guards. That and more here on NTD News. Britain may revive its domestic production of high-powered magnets used in electric vehicles with government support, cutting its reliance on China. British production of the magnets vanished in the 1990s when the industry found it could not compete with China. But with the huge growth in demand, the government is keen to secure enough supply. And a magnet factory would also help the UK meet its environmental goals. NTD's Malcolm Hudson has more on this story.
The British firm Less Common Metals has released a feasibility study looking into the potential creation of a UK-based rare earth magnet operation. The report says that China produces 90% of the global supply of rare earth magnets at highly competitive prices. China dominates the production of rare earths, a group of 17 elements used in magnet production. Its resource advantage has been enhanced by utilizing a low-cost and highly flexible labor base, including forced labor. This has made it difficult for non-Chinese companies to gain and maintain their footing in the markets. However, the shift to renewable energy and electric vehicles, both of which need rare earth magnets, has refocused British attention. The government-funded feasibility study says the need for a secure and stable supply chain independent of the Chinese regime is evident. In 2010, after China attempted to weaponize its rare earth monopoly, Japan responded with a successful initiative. Its government sought new suppliers outside of China by investing in countries with rare earth minerals but that lacked the technology to extract and process them. The chief executive of Less Common Metals, Ian Higgins, says government support for a UK operation would be vital. The EU and the US are also looking to create their own domestic industries for rare earth magnets. Higgins says that a British magnet factory could be built by 2024. It could eventually produce 2,000 tons of rare earth magnets, enough to supply about 1 million electric vehicles. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
Lithuania has completed the first sections of a wall against migrants crossing from Belarus, a towering steel structure topped with razor wire. The European Union accuses Belarus of encouraging migrants to cross into neighboring countries. And the Polish government says Belarusian soldiers threatened to open fire on Polish troops at the border. Lucy Fielder reports.
Lithuania has built the first stretches of a steel wall on its border with Belarus since migrants from the Middle East and other areas began entering from Belarus this year. The European Union accuses Belarus of deliberately encouraging the migrants to enter EU states Poland, Lithuania and Latvia via Belarusian territory, as a way of putting pressure on the bloc. Belarus has repeatedly denied this, but its president, Alexander Lukashenko, has said his country would no longer stop the migrants, since EU sanctions drain resources. All 3 EU countries have put stretches of razor wire on the border to stop the migrants. Last week, Lithuania began putting up the first stretches of the 11-foot-high steel fence, topped with razor wire. Virgilius Raugale is a border guard commander.
It's probably impossible to build a totally impassable obstacle, so I think this barrier too could be overcome. But that would take a long time and we would be able to react.
Lithuania wants to build 300 miles of the wall by September next year, supplemented by coiled razor wire and video surveillance. In August, Lithuania started sending almost all entering migrants back to Belarus. More than 5,600 migrants have been prevented from entering since then, the border guard said. Poland's defense ministry, meanwhile, said on Thursday Belarusian soldiers had threatened to open fire on Polish troops just across the border, in what it called an attempt to escalate a crisis over migrants along their common frontier.
Germany's foreign ministry on Friday confirmed the death of a Russian diplomat last month. The deceased diplomat is now suspected of being an undercover agent for Moscow's intelligence agency. Matthew Laratanda reports.
German media are reporting that a man was found dead in the street outside the Russian embassy in Berlin last month, who turned out to be an undercover Russian spy and is said to have fallen from an upper floor of the building. That's according to the Der Spiegel newspaper, citing sources in Germany's security services, and that specifically he was 35 years old and officially listed as a diplomat and embassy secretary, but was actually a member of Moscow's FSB intelligence agency. It's not clear what caused his death or how he'd fallen, and the Russian embassy has not agreed to an autopsy, according to Der Spiegel. He's also said to be related, through family, to a senior officer in a counterterrorism section at the FSB. The embassy has reportedly called the incident a, quote, tragic accident, but won't comment further for what it calls ethical reasons. Germany's foreign ministry has said it's aware of the death of a diplomat, but is also declining to comment further, and prosecutors would neither confirm nor deny the report.
And now to Venice, where people got their wet weather shoes on to wade the waters at the famed St. Mark's Square. At about 3 feet, though, today's high tide was not enough to activate the flood barriers, but it did get some people sloshing in their boots. And walkways were set up so others could cross the square without getting wet. It's a regular occurrence. Venice floods temporarily when the Adriatic Sea tide rises. But that doesn't stop tourists and locals alike from catching some sun, splashing a little, and having some fun. And now to Carnaby Street in the heart of London's West End, which is now sparkling under its Christmas light display. Visitors could enjoy seasonal workshops and activities on Thursday to kick off the festive season. NTD's Neil Woodrow was there to soak up the atmosphere.
Carnaby Street have switched on their Christmas lights for 2021. They generate a new theme for every year. This year is called Carnaby Kaleidoscope. 600 butterflies representing spiritual rebirth, transformation, change and hope. Glittering hand-decorated butterflies come fluttering down on Carnaby Street. The street busy for the launch day as visitors try to snap the scenes above them on their phones. It's an annual event here at Carnaby Street put on by property investment group Shaftesbury, the owners of Carnaby Street. And this year's theme, Carnaby Kaleidoscope, was started on last Christmas. They were looking for something that showed a positive message.
And we came upon the idea of butterflies, and when we did a bit more research we found out that it represented hope and rebirth and transformation, and we felt that that message was spot on. You know, that's something that everybody's going through at the moment, our tenants, our customers, and we thought that it would be a perfect fit.
A group of butterflies is called a kaleidoscope. Emma said they always aim to make the installation colourful, to put smiles on people's faces.
More than 20 years we've done something, and I think Carnaby is famous worldwide for our installations, and that's what we aspire to be every year.
During Thursday's event, visitors try out the various activities put on for them. Facers get a glittery butterfly makeover. For some, it's the chance to try making a Christmas wreath under expert guidance. A converted VW camper van on site acts as a photo booth for a memorable picture of the visit. And there's plenty more activities planned for Carnaby Street through the Christmas period.
We have lots of activations happening in stores. We've got some more live music planned. Really it's down to our wonderful tenants and what they're doing. They're really going above and beyond this year, so we're super excited for Christmas.
There's a real buzz among the butterflies and lights here in Carnaby Street's Kaleidoscope. Near Woodrow, NTD News, London.
Up next, in the Atacama Desert, we're seeing fossils from millions of years ago resurface, including the legendary Megalodon shark. And NASA introduces a mission designed to protect the Earth from asteroids. The agency will launch a spacecraft to crash into and redirect a double asteroid. That and more on NTD News.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
Between the striking sand formations and the elaborate rocks of Chile's Atacama Desert, an ancient trove of fossilized treasures are emerging from the ground. NTD's Shen Yun has more.
Chile's Bahia Inglesa in the Atacama sits about 422 miles north of the capital, Santiago. Once largely submerged beneath the Pacific Ocean, this desert is now the world's most arid place and the perfect preservation site for its ancient remains. Known as the desert graveyard for fossils, this area has seen species that roamed the Earth millions of years ago resurface. Its prized find is the massive jaw of the Megalodon shark species, one of the largest predators to have ever lived.
They're sharks which measure 52 feet, which probably preyed on whales. Every time they would shut their mouths, they would take in hundreds of pounds of meat from each whale.
The Atacama lost favor with paleontologists after the 19th century. A mining company for illegal phosphates came and damaged many of the fossils.
As they were rich in phosphates, the fossils were ground up to make plant fertilizer.
This sparked a campaign for its preservation, which gained momentum in the late 20th century. The archaeological area at Bahia Inglesa covers 6,100 acres and is now a protected site. Shen Yun, NTD News.
NASA introduced the space agency's first planetary defense test mission, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. They plan to launch a spacecraft later this month on a mission to crash into an asteroid.
Can an asteroid on a collision course with our planet be deflected? That's what NASA wants to find out. On Thursday, it introduced a spacecraft they plan to launch later this month on a mission to crash into one. They want to see if its impact will change the asteroid's course. The Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, is the space agency's first test mission of a planetary defense system. They plan to target a double asteroid, Didymos and its moon Dimorphos. Neither pose a threat to Earth, as NASA's planetary defense officer, Lindley Johnson, explained.
This is a test. We don't want
to be in a situation where an asteroid is headed toward Earth and then have to be testing this kind of capability. We want to know about both how the spacecraft works and what the reaction will be by the asteroid to the impact before we ever get in a situation like that.
The mission's success rests on the shape of the asteroid, which systems engineer Elena Adams says won't be known until the spacecraft gets there.
Our impact angle on the plane of Dimorphos is really uncertain right now, and it's really going to depend on what Dimorphos actually looks like, and we're not going to find that out until the last, well, let's be honest, last 20 seconds when we're about to hit.
According to NASA's website, no known asteroid larger than 140 meters in size has a significant chance to hit Earth for the next 100 years. But they also estimate that less than half of those asteroids are accounted for. DART plans to launch the spacecraft on November 24 from California's Vandenberg Air Force Base. It is expected to reach the target asteroids by next fall.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV, type in your zip code, and find all the ways you can watch NTD.